The real reason you avoid company. Carl Jung reveals what it says about your soul. Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Carl Jung once wrote, "If you've ever felt an unexplained resistance to social gatherings or a deep discomfort when someone interrupts your solitude, you're not alone and you're not broken. There may be something profoundly meaningful about your need for space, silence, and soul protection." In this video, we'll explore the spiritual wisdom behind why you avoid company and what it reveals about your inner world. What if your solitude is not a flaw, but a sacred sign of transformation? Comment below. I honor my inner space if this resonates with your journey. Let's open the door to deeper self-understanding together. 1. It's not rudeness, it's energy sensitivity. Avoiding visitors doesn't make you antisocial. It reveals an evolved sensitivity to energy, a kind of intuitive intelligence that few understand. When someone steps into your space uninvited, it's not just a physical intrusion, it's an energetic disruption. You don't simply hear their words. You feel their presence, their unresolved emotions, their projections. For someone undergoing a spiritual awakening, this isn't just tiring, it's overwhelming. Carl Jung taught us that the unconscious speaks through symbols, reactions, and patterns, and one of the clearest signs of deep inner work is the soul's craving for silence. The less noise you tolerate, the more peace you are protecting. This isn't rudeness, it's alignment. And while the world may try to label your solitude as withdrawal, in truth, it's expansion. You're no longer available to every passing frequency, because you've begun to tune your life like an instrument, deliberately, gently, and with reverence for your energy. In a society that equates kindness with constant availability, it takes spiritual courage to set boundaries. But here's the truth. Saying no to the world often means saying yes to your soul. You've grown past the need to entertain empty chatter, past the compulsion to fill space with company just to avoid stillness. The discomfort you feel around others isn't judgment, it's discernment. You notice the emotional masks, the hidden motives, the unconscious attempts to siphon your energy. This level of sensitivity is not a weakness. It is the evolution of perception. When your nervous system starts resisting social interaction, it's not a defect, it's a divine signal to retreat and restore. In that sacred solitude, your spirit recalibrates, your truth becomes louder, and your intuition sharpens. You are no longer afraid of being alone because you finally realize you are not alone. You are in communion with your higher self, your spiritual wisdom, and your inner light. The more spiritually awake you become, the more you understand that presence is sacred currency. You no longer spend it carelessly. You begin to notice that being around certain people feels like work, like managing, translating, absorbing, filtering. And when the cost outweighs the connection, your soul opts out. That isn't bitterness, it's clarity. You don't avoid company because you hate people. You avoid company because you've outgrown surface-level connections. You crave depth, resonance, and truth. You would rather sit in silence than drown in small talk. You would rather protect your vibration than explain your boundaries. And as your sensitivity increases, so does your selectivity. You begin to honor your energy field like a sanctuary, guarding its gates with the quiet authority of someone who's done the work to finally feel whole. This is not detachment, it is devotion. Devotion to the soul's timing. Devotion to your emotional bandwidth. Devotion to the invisible layers of life that others overlook. You are not being cold, you are being conscious. You are not rejecting the world, you are refining how you relate to it. Spiritual awakening teaches you that you don't need to be everywhere, with everyone, all the time. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is sit with yourself and honor the whisper that says, "Not today." Not because you're angry, but because you're healing. Not because you're superior, but because you're sensitive. And in that sacred sensitivity lies your true strength, the quiet power of someone who has finally come home to themselves. Comment below. I honor my energy. If you know your sensitivity is not weakness, but a deeper strength of the soul. 2. Your home is sacred space. For the deeply sensitive and spiritually attuned soul, home is not merely a shelter, it is sacred ground, a sanctuary where energy reorganizes, the psyche recalibrates, and the soul finds its way back to wholeness. When someone knocks at the door or asks to visit, it may trigger more than a simple inconvenience. It may awaken a deep, internal resistance. This isn't about disliking people or being antisocial. It's about the subtle, often invisible impact that external energy has on your inner sanctuary. According to Carl Jung, this discomfort often reflects a clash between your authentic self and the persona you must wear when others are present. Every time you allow someone into your space, you are forced, often unconsciously, to step out of your intuitive rhythm and into performance mode. This shift fractures your alignment, and for those walking the path of spiritual development, that fracture feels like spiritual dissonance. Your home is not just a space you inhabit. It is the outer expression of your inner world. It's where silence speaks louder than words, where your spirit stretches and breathes, where your nervous system finds its rhythm again. Every item in your home is infused with emotional memory. Every corner tuned to your energetic frequency. And when someone enters this space, no matter how kindly, their presence ripples through your energetic field, often in ways neither of you can fully name. This isn't about drama or overreaction. It's about energetic truth. If you've ever felt the need to tidy up your emotions before opening the door, or sensed yourself wearing a smile that doesn't quite reach your soul, that's not you being rude. That's your spirit defending its sanctuary. In a society that praises extroversion and endless accessibility, this can feel isolating. But Jung reminds us that individuation, true self-realization, requires solitude, stillness, and inner listening. There's a reason why social noise has started to feel unbearable. It's not because you're cold or distant. It's because surface-level interactions no longer nourish you. You've outgrown conversations that skate across the surface of life. You crave resonance, not chatter. You yearn for presence, not performance. When you say no to company, you're not rejecting others. You're protecting your process. Spirituality isn't always found in temples or texts. Sometimes it's found in the way you honor your need for quiet. This phase of your life might require fewer visitors and more inner visits. It might look like long afternoons in silence, early nights with your thoughts, and mornings where you wake without the pressure of external demand. This is not regression. This is sacred progress. You are building spiritual muscle, refining your intuition, and preparing your inner space for deeper truths to emerge. So if you've felt the urge to avoid company, if your soul recoils at the idea of hosting, if even a text message asking, "Can I come over?" makes your heart contract, it's not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something sacred is taking place. You are stepping into energetic alignment, where peace is prioritized over performance, where stillness becomes strategy, and where your home, your truest inner home, is finally being honored as the temple it always was. Let that be your truth, your boundary, and your blessing. 3. The persona versus the true self. Carl Jung taught that we all wear a persona, a social mask designed to help us survive in the world. But when that mask becomes glued to your face, even in your most private spaces, a quiet war begins inside your soul. You start to feel heavy, not because you dislike others, but because you are exhausted from pretending, smiling when your heart is tired, speaking when your spirit wants silence, offering energy when your own cup is dry. And so, when the doorbell rings, or a message arrives with cheerful plans, you don't feel rude for saying no. You feel relief. Because deep down, you crave authenticity, not performance. This reaction isn't coldness, it's wisdom. It's the beginning of a spiritual awakening, where your deeper intelligence tells you, you no longer have to prove your goodness through social pleasantries. You just have to be real. Jung believed that the soul becomes restless when it is denied its truth. When your home becomes just another stage for performance, your subconscious revolts. You begin to feel irritated at small talk, emotionally depleted by surface-level conversations, and overwhelmed by the noise of company. Not because you're broken, but because your soul is healing. Your nervous system is no longer willing to tolerate environments where it cannot breathe freely. What others might label as antisocial is, in fact, a sacred boundary. A boundary that whispers, "Not everyone deserves access to my energy." This is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is a sign that your spiritual intelligence is sharpening, guiding you inward where your true self waits. Not loud, not demanding, just quietly present. There is a powerful difference between being alone and being at peace. And that difference is everything. You begin to realize that not all company is nourishing, not all conversations are meaningful, and not all presence is safe. You become aware that some interactions require you to shrink, to mask, to perform, and something inside you now refuses to go back to that version of you. You would rather be misunderstood in your truth than celebrated in your disguise. That choice, however small, marks the return to yourself. It is a quiet rebellion against superficial connection, a brave refusal to betray your own energy just to make others comfortable. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And sometimes, becoming that person means canceling plans, protecting your space, and letting go of guilt. Because your peace is no longer negotiable. You are not here to entertain. You are here to evolve. And those who are meant to walk with you will honor the silence, not just the sound. When you no longer force yourself into social masks, you start to experience a strange kind of freedom, a return to wholeness. In that space, solitude is not loneliness. It's spiritual wisdom in motion. It's your soul finally exhaling. If this insight about the persona and the true self spoke to you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your reflections in the comments below. Let's uncover secret number 4 together. 4. The shadow gets triggered. Visitors may unknowingly awaken the deepest parts of you, not by what they say, but by what they stir within. That uneasy feeling you sense when someone enters your presence is often the shadow rising, the unconscious container of suppressed fears, forgotten memories, and traits you would rather not face. Carl Jung reminds us that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And this is precisely what happens when company makes you restless. Their laughter may echo a childhood wound. Their confidence may remind you of your insecurities, or their very energy may press against the silence you protect so dearly. What seems like discomfort with others is often the mirror of your unhealed self being held right before your eyes. In the path of spirituality and spiritual awakening, these moments are not random. They are sacred invitations. The shadow reacts whenever it is touched, and the people around you often become the catalysts. You may feel as though your sanctuary has been invaded, but what has truly been entered is your unconscious. Every irritation, every sudden resistance is a signal pointing to something within that still longs for integration. To resist this truth is to miss the chance to grow. To embrace it is to turn discomfort into wisdom. Modern life, filled with constant interactions and noisy environments, makes this awareness more essential than ever. For those who are awakening spiritually, sensitivity is heightened, and what once felt tolerable now feels unbearable until it is acknowledged and healed. Each person who unsettles you is, in reality, a teacher in disguise. They hand you the key to a locked room inside yourself, and whether you choose to open it or not determines how much you evolve. When you choose to lean into the discomfort instead of avoiding it, you discover that the uneasiness is not your enemy, but your guide. Journaling about what rises up, meditating on the sensations, or sitting with the emotion until it reveals its lesson allows the unconscious to become conscious. This is how the shadow loses its power, by being brought into the light of awareness. And through this process, even an uncomfortable visit becomes part of your spiritual wisdom, a reminder that growth is not found only in peace, but also in the places that challenge you. To avoid company, then, is not always about rejecting others. Often, it is about being called to face yourself more deeply. The real reason the presence of another unsettles you is because your soul is asking you to heal, to integrate, and to awaken. When you honor this truth, solitude no longer feels like an escape, but a sanctuary of preparation, and interaction no longer feels like an intrusion, but a mirror guiding you toward wholeness. 5. The need to withdraw is the soul calling. What may appear to others as withdrawal is in truth the sacred beginning of individuation, the process Carl Jung described as becoming your authentic self. When your soul calls for solitude, it is not a retreat from life, but a deeper step into it, the urge to step away from company. To close the door and protect your silence is not rejection of the world. It is an invitation from within to reflect, to heal, and to grow. This discomfort you feel is not a flaw, but a psychological necessity, a signal from the psyche that profound inner transformation is unfolding. In those quiet spaces, Away from the constant expectations of others, you are able to meet yourself without distraction, and it is there that your true essence slowly begins to rise. Jung believed that when the external world overwhelms you, the inner world intervenes, urging you to retreat so that your spiritual development may continue its natural course. You are not turning away from others out of disdain. Rather, you are turning toward your own soul to hear its wisdom more clearly. Think of the moments when solitude brought you the clarity no conversation ever could. That is the soul's intelligence at work, guiding you gently back to your center. Just as a seed must rest in darkness before breaking through the soil into light, your spirit requires periods of stillness before it can reveal its full strength. In the realm of spirituality, these moments of withdrawal are not empty. They are fertile ground for awakening. Society often praises endless activity and constant connection. Yet true alignment comes only when you learn to honor both engagement and retreat. Without solitude, it becomes difficult to distinguish your own voice from the noise of others. And without silence, the whispers of intuition are too easily drowned out. In the stillness, you protect your energy, and in that sacred quiet, you discover the resilience that prepares you for the path ahead. There is no need to carry guilt for desiring solitude, because your soul is not rejecting people. It is protecting the sacred space where growth takes place. The discomfort you feel when company disrupts your peace is not weakness, but evidence that your soul values authenticity over appearance. These are the seasons of becoming, where you shed old identities and prepare to embody something new, even if no one else can yet see it. Solitude is not an escape, but a cocoon, a place where the unseen transformation takes root. As the wisdom reminds us, in solitude the mind gains strength and learns to lean upon itself. To be alone in this way is not isolation, but empowerment, the strengthening of your inner life so that when you do return to the world, you do so with clarity, depth, and truth. The call to withdraw is a call to honor yourself. When you step back from the noise, you are aligning with the rhythm of your soul, choosing to trust the quiet process that shapes you into who you are meant to be. This is spirituality in motion, a reminder that silence holds the answers that words often cannot, and that stepping away from company is sometimes the most loving act you can offer yourself. In honoring solitude, you are not turning away from life, you are preparing to live it more fully, carrying wisdom, authenticity, and a stronger spirit into everything you touch. 6. The hermit archetype lives in you. Carl Jung believed that deep within every human being lies an archetype that whispers the path to our truest self, and one of the most profound is the hermit. The hermit does not represent loneliness or rejection of life, but the sacred act of retreat, the conscious decision to step back from the noise of the world in order to touch the intelligence of the soul. When you feel the urge to close the door, silence your phone, or decline yet another social invitation, it does not mean you are antisocial or broken. It means you are listening to your inner hermit, the one who understands that real spiritual wisdom is born not in constant distraction, but in silence, reflection, and the inward journey. Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." This awakening happens in the quiet, and solitude becomes the lantern that guides you back to your essence. Every time you choose solitude, You align with a deeper rhythm that modern life often drowns out. The world praises busyness and endless noise, yet the hermit archetype reminds you that truth unfolds in stillness. In these moments, your thoughts sharpen, your energy strengthens, and your soul speaks with clarity. This is not avoidance, it is alignment. It is a mark of intelligence and spiritual wisdom, a sign that you are seeking meaning beyond the surface of social obligations. Thinkers and mystics throughout history have honored solitude as a sacred companion. Schopenhauer called solitude the school of genius, and monks throughout time have walked into silence to find light. To retreat is not selfishness, but self-preservation. It is the way you protect your spirit in a world that often consumes more than it gives. Carl Jung understood that those who embody the hermit archetype are not rejecting humanity, but carrying the responsibility of awakening. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Solitude is the privilege that allows you to remember yourself without distortion, to rebuild your inner strength, and to prepare your light for the world." The hermit carries a lantern in the tarot, not to hide in darkness, but to illuminate the path with wisdom he found in silence. Your choice to avoid company at times is not weakness, but a spiritual awakening, proof that your soul is guiding you toward depth and authenticity. By honoring this inner call, you discover that solitude is not emptiness, it is fullness, a sacred pause that transforms your presence and allows you to return to others with clarity, strength, and light. 7. Boundaries are not selfish. They're sacred. Saying no to visits, canceling plans, or choosing solitude is not an act of selfishness, but an act of deep self-respect, a sacred form of soul care that honors your spiritual awakening. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And part of that becoming is protecting your energy so that when you return to the world, you show up with authenticity and presence. Boundaries are not barriers to love, but channels through which love flows more purely, because they teach you to give from fullness rather than from depletion. In a world where people constantly measure worth by how busy or available they are, the courage to say no becomes an affirmation that your soul's rhythm matters, that your inner world deserves protection, and that silence is as essential as speech. When you draw boundaries, you are not turning your back on life. You are stepping into alignment with it. Solitude nourishes your roots the way stillness nourishes the ocean's depth, and in that quiet, you gather strength to engage with others in a way that is more intentional and alive. Spirituality is not about endless connection, but about sacred timing, about knowing when to retreat so you can return with wisdom. Saying no is not rejection. It is making space for a wholehearted yes later, when your energy is centered and your heart is ready to give without resentment. Jung reminds us that the soul needs cycles of retreat and renewal, and when you honor these cycles, you become more whole, radiant, and unshakable. In modern life, boundaries are easily misunderstood. People may accuse you of being distant, aloof, or antisocial, but in truth, you are practicing one of the highest forms of spiritual wisdom. To step back is to listen to the subtle whispers of your soul, to recharge the unseen batteries that sustain your clarity, creativity, and love. Alone time is not loneliness. It is where intelligence deepens and self-knowledge takes root. Jung himself wrote, Solitude is for me a fount of healing which makes my life worth living. And this solitude, far from isolating you, prepares you to meet others with a rare aura of calm strength. By safeguarding your boundaries, you become a presence that others feel drawn to, not because you give endlessly, but because you radiate authenticity, because your eyes have weight and your nose has integrity. Boundaries are sacred agreements with your higher self. They remind you that worth is not measured by sacrifice, but by alignment, not by constant availability, but by genuine presence. In honoring them, you model for others the courage to do the same, and you gift the collective with your truest self. In protecting your inner space, you are not closing a door. You are opening a sanctuary, one that allows your light to shine more brightly when the moment is right. This is not selfishness. It is the essence of spirituality, the wisdom to live authentically, and the strength to walk the world whole. 8. True balance is between solitude and connection. Carl Jung taught that the essence of life is not about shutting yourself away from others or drowning in constant company, but about finding conscious balance, a rhythm between solitude and connection that allows your soul to breathe and your spiritual development to unfold. When you choose solitude, you are not escaping life, but deepening it, because silence strengthens your inner world and gives space for clarity, creativity, and healing. Yet to cut yourself off completely is to deny the truth that human beings are relational, that we grow through others just as much as we grow alone. This is why Jung emphasized that your inner world matters just as much as the outer world, and when one is neglected, the other loses its depth. In modern life, many people feel guilty when they decline invitations, as though protecting their energy makes them selfish. But Jung would remind you that choosing solitude with awareness is a powerful act of spirituality, a way of honoring who you truly are. Time spent in stillness is not rejection of others, but a return to yourself, a way to listen to the quiet voice within. And when you choose connection, the point is not to crowd your days with shallow encounters, but to seek intentional relationships, the kind that uplift you, awaken your sense of belonging, and align with your deepest values. That is conscious balance, deciding when to be with yourself and when to be with others, not out of guilt or fear, but out of wisdom and self-respect. This teaching matters today more than ever, because so many people live at the extremes, isolating themselves until loneliness consumes them, or exhausting themselves with endless obligations until they feel empty inside. Real spirituality is not found in either extreme, but in harmony. Solitude is the soil where your soul takes root, and connection is the sunlight that helps it grow strong. Without solitude, connection becomes shallow, and without connection, solitude becomes hollow. But when both are honored, you live with depth, authenticity, and balance. Protecting your energy means creating small rituals for solitude, writing in a journal, meditating, walking in nature, or sitting quietly with your own thoughts. At the same time, nurturing your spirit means choosing intentional connections, conversations that matter, communities that inspire, and moments of presence with those you love. This is the true path of spiritual wisdom, because every conscious choice you make to balance the inner and outer world becomes a step toward peace, purpose, and fulfillment. If this message resonated with you, if you've ever felt misunderstood for needing space, or finally feel seen in your solitude, know that you're not alone. In the quiet, your soul speaks the loudest, and perhaps what you've been avoiding isn't people, but noise that drowns out your truth. Carl Jung once said, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing, which makes my life worth living." So honor your need for stillness, and let it be your sanctuary, not your shame. If this brought you clarity or comfort, please like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that dive even deeper into the hidden layers of the soul. When fate intervenes, love becomes unbreakable. As Carl Jung once said, synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Sometimes, life doesn't follow logic, it follows destiny. There are moments when love arrives not by choice, but by a deeper calling of the soul. If you've ever met someone and felt as if you've known them forever, this video is for you. We're diving into the mysterious beauty of fated love, the kind that defies time, reason, and resistance. As you watch, ask yourself, have you experienced this kind of connection? Drop your story in the comments below, and let's awaken together in this journey of spiritual wisdom. 1. Destined love is a deep inner recognition. When two souls cross paths in a way that feels beyond logic, it's not coincidence, it's the unveiling of something ancient, something scripted deep within the human psyche, long before the meeting ever took place. This is not just chemistry or attraction. It is a powerful activation of archetypal energy buried in the collective unconscious, as Carl Jung described. It begins with a feeling that you've met before, a strange familiarity in their eyes, or a silence that speaks more deeply than words ever could. The symbolic images we've carried through dreams, myths, and inner longing suddenly find a mirror in another person. This is the soul recognizing itself, not in the way the mind understands, but in the way eternity remembers. And when it happens, it feels like time bends, reality softens, and something within you says, yes, this is it. The magnetism is not logical, and it's not always convenient. Often, destined love arrives wrapped in divine timing that our conscious self cannot plan. It comes when the soul is ready, when healing has begun, when the old patterns have cracked, when you're finally able to meet, not from ego, but from essence. You are not meeting a stranger. You are meeting the echo of your own inner archetype projected outward. It could be the animus, the inner masculine, or the anima, the inner feminine. When this projection lands on someone who matches the frequency of that energy, the draw becomes undeniable. You're not falling in love with the person. You're falling into the mirror of your spiritual design. The connection ignites a fire that is both magnetic and purifying, leading you into spiritual awakening, whether you were prepared or not. But this type of love is not soft and simple. It is raw, confronting, and often deeply transformative. It exposes wounds, tests patience, and demands growth. It forces you to look at yourself, not the curated version, but the shadow, the unhealed, the forgotten. It asks you to show up, not as who you've pretended to be, but as who you truly are. And this is where spirituality becomes inseparable from love. Because real love, The kind born from soul recognition will not let you hide. It will drag the unconscious to the surface, stir the waters of suppressed emotion, and teach you that union begins with inner wholeness. The one you are drawn to becomes not just a lover, but a mirror, a catalyst, a sacred disruptor of every illusion you've clung to. These unions aren't always meant to be permanent in the physical world, but their purpose is eternal. Sometimes the most powerful soul contracts come to awaken you, not to accompany you. They leave an imprint that changes your frequency forever. And even when the form dissolves, the energy remains, guiding your path with a new level of clarity, strength, and emotional depth. Love becomes the spiritual teacher you never knew you needed, the mirror that reflected the parts of you you had forgotten. This is why the soul remembers even when the mind forgets. This is why one encounter can reroute a lifetime. So when fate intervenes and brings someone into your life who activates your soul in a way no one else has, pay attention. The universe does not waste energy. There are no accidents in the language of spirit. You were meant to meet. You were meant to awaken. And whether the journey is long or short, smooth or stormy, it is sacred. Because when love becomes a force, guided by the unconscious, it doesn't just make your heart race, it makes your soul rise. If your soul recognizes the truth of destined love, comment below, "I trust divine timing," to affirm your journey. Let this be the moment you align with the love that was always meant for you. 3. Synchronicity guides fated connections. When fate intervenes in love, it doesn't knock on the door of logic. It moves silently through the soul, echoing through synchronicities that feel too precise to be mere coincidence. These are not just signs. They are moments of deep resonance where the inner world aligns perfectly with the outer, signaling that destiny is not only real, but intelligent. Carl Jung called synchronicity a meaningful coincidence that connects two souls across time, dreams, and intuition. It's not about luck. It's about soul readiness. Love arrives not when the ego demands it, but when the spirit has evolved enough to recognize it. And in that moment, everything changes. A familiar gaze, a sentence that mirrors your deepest thought, a silence that speaks louder than conversation. These are the invisible fingerprints of destiny. Spiritual wisdom teaches that what is meant for you will never need to be forced, explained, or chased. When two souls are destined, life will bend to create the right alignment, even if it means delaying union until both are prepared to truly see each other. This isn't about fantasy. It's about intelligence, the sacred order of the universe working behind the scenes, weaving signs, dreams, and timing into a tapestry that pulls you toward what your higher self already knows. Jung believed that these moments arise from the collective unconscious, a deep reservoir of archetypes and symbols that guide our journey, often without our awareness. So when a connection feels ancient, immediate, and undeniable, it likely is. You're not falling in love, you're remembering it. The beauty of a fated connection lies in its simplicity. It doesn't need loud declarations or dramatic pursuit. It's quiet, grounded, and magnetic. It's the way their presence feels like home without explanation. It's the way your nervous system calms when they walk in the room. It's the way time bends and conversation flows effortlessly, as if you're picking up where you left off in another lifetime. This isn't ordinary love. This is archetypal love rooted in the deepest symbols of union, balance, and divine timing. It transcends need and becomes a calling. And no matter how far apart you may drift, something always brings you back. Not because of unfinished business, but because of a contract written by the soul long before you were born. Spiritual awakening invites you to stop doubting these encounters. Start seeing them as markers on your path, proof that the universe is not chaotic, but deeply aware of your journey. Intelligence is not just found in thoughts, it's found in patterns, energy, and alignment. When everything begins to mirror your inner state, when life starts reflecting back the very love you've been becoming, trust it. Love that is guided by synchronicity does not ask for control. It asks for surrender. And in surrender, it becomes unbreakable. Not because it's perfect, but because it's true. 2. Love as a mirror and catalyst for growth. True love reveals not just who the other person is, but who you are when you stand in their presence. When fate places someone in your path, it's not always about romance in the conventional sense. It's about awakening something ancient, something hidden, something sacred within you. The person you're drawn to becomes a living mirror, not because they complete you, but because they reflect the forgotten, silenced, or unexpressed parts of your soul. Their presence activates courage you didn't know you had, brings tenderness to the surface, or even exposes unresolved wounds you thought were buried. This is not random chemistry. This is a spiritual agreement unfolding in real time. You are not meeting them by chance. You are meeting them by design, drawn into their orbit by an invisible intelligence that wants you to grow. As Carl Jung taught, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And in this fated love, you are not just loving someone, you are meeting the unconscious parts of yourself through them. The attraction becomes a spiritual mirror, a reflection of your own potential and your own resistance. Their gaze may soften the hard edges of your ego, or it may challenge your emotional walls to crumble. Either way, they are not here to save you. They are here to remind you that love is the fire through which spiritual development occurs. The reason love feels so powerful isn't because the other person holds power over you, but because their presence uncovers the power within you that has long been asleep. It is through love that your inner child is triggered, your shadows are confronted, your soul contracts are activated, and your patterns are exposed not as punishment, but as opportunity. Because this kind of love is not designed to make life easy. It is designed to make life honest. It forces you to face your emotional truths and shatters the illusions you've built around safety and control. You begin to notice that their presence isn't just comforting, it's confronting. And that confrontation is the very path to transformation. You start speaking more authentically, crying more freely, setting clearer boundaries, and reclaiming parts of yourself you gave away long ago. Love in this form is not predictable. It's not neat. It doesn't follow the scripts of fairy tales. It arrives like a spiritual storm, unapologetic, intense, and deeply revealing. And yet, something in your soul says yes, because you remember them, not with your mind, but with your energy. Something ancient stirs. Something sacred moves. This is when love becomes a portal, not to fantasy, but to truth. You may find yourself saying, I don't know why I feel this way, but I know it's real. And that knowing is your spirit recognizing its own evolution. You are not here to merely fall in love. You are here to be reborn through love. When you look into their eyes, you are not just seeing them, you are seeing who you could become. And that is the gift of spiritual love. It awakens you to yourself. It breaks the cycle of ego-driven relationships and calls forth your soul. It doesn't just ask you to stay, it asks you to rise. Through every emotional storm, through every mirror they hold up to your flaws, through every trigger they activate, there is one message being whispered. Become who you were always meant to be. This is spirituality in motion. This is spiritual development through sacred connection. Love them, yes, but more importantly, let them help you remember the deepest truth of all: you are not broken. You are becoming. And sometimes it takes the mirror of fate to finally see it. If you believe love is meant to awaken your soul and help you grow, don't hesitate like this video. Subscribe to our channel and share your reflections in the comments below. Let's affirm together: I am ready for love that transforms me. 4. The role of the self in orchestrating love. The self, as Carl Jung described, is the totality of both your conscious awareness and your unconscious instincts, a deep intelligence that orchestrates your life beyond what the mind can comprehend. In love, this self is not passive. It arranges encounters, whispers through intuition, and aligns your path with those who are meant to awaken your soul. When love arises from this depth, it is not just romantic or emotional, it is transformational. It comes to restore parts of you that were forgotten, hidden, or broken. You may feel an inexplicable pull to someone, a resonance that defies logic, because the self recognizes what the ego cannot. This is the realm of archetypes, of ancient spiritual patterns, of spiritual awakening that speaks through connection. Love becomes a callback to your most authentic self, not because the other completes you, but because they mirror your unhealed parts and your divine potential all at once. In this sacred orchestration, the purpose of love is not to make you feel comfortable, but to make you whole. The self knows that growth comes through reflection, and there is no greater mirror than love. That is why certain people enter your life with such timing, intensity, or synchronicity that it shakes you awake. They are not random. They are spiritual catalysts sent to bring forward what was dormant within you. Often, these connections are layered in paradox. They feel both fated and challenging, both exhilarating and terrifying, because they are designed to awaken the parts of you that need to evolve. And through them, you begin to see not only who you are, but who you are becoming. In modern life, we are trained to chase love with our eyes open, but our intuition closed. Yet the self invites us to reverse that, to listen inwardly, to trust the quiet sense of recognition, the stillness that speaks when a true soul connection arrives. Fate, in Jungian thought, is not some random force. It is the unfolding of your inner reality into the external world. Until you become aware of what lives in your unconscious, it will shape your choices, your patterns, and your relationships. But once you awaken, you begin to participate in the unfolding. You stop seeking love as a cure, and instead recognize it as a teacher. The ones who come into your life with deep impact are often the ones written into your spiritual contract before you even knew how to love yourself. They show you your shadow, your light, your pain, and your path. This is why unbreakable love is not defined by longevity or perfection, but by alignment with your inner truth. The deeper your self-awareness, the clearer you see who resonates with your energy, who belongs in your sacred circle, and who is merely passing through. In spiritual wisdom, love is not a reward, it's a revelation. It reveals where you are aligned and where you are still fragmented. It brings you into contact with your soul's longing, not so you can fill the void, but so you can understand its message. And the most powerful love, the kind that feels inevitable, magnetic, and eternal, is always orchestrated by the self. Not because you are lucky, but because you are ready. Ready to be seen, ready to heal, ready to love from a place of inner wholeness, not spiritual hunger. The self does not give you what your ego desires. It gives you what your soul needs. And when fate intervenes through love, it is not chaos, it is the highest form of order, a divine choreography of timing, memory, and meaning. That is the love that cannot break, because it was never built on illusion, it was forged in truth. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any soul-aligned messages like this. Comment below. I trust the self within me to guide me toward love that is destined and divine. 5. Resistance is part of the path. When a love is destined, it rarely arrives in silence. It comes with an echo, a quake, a wave that disrupts everything familiar. Not because it is wrong, but because it is real. It challenges your carefully constructed identity, confronts the shadow you've hidden from, and demands that you meet yourself honestly. This isn't just romance, it's a spiritual initiation. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And that's exactly why this kind of love can terrify you. It pulls up old wounds, awakens past fears, and shakes the illusion of control. But the presence of resistance doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're being pushed beyond the ego and into the realm of the soul, where transformation begins. The emotional chaos, the urge to run, the fear that it's too much, these are not signs to retreat. They are signs that your inner world is being stretched to hold more truth, more light, more presence. When love touches your core, it doesn't ask you to stay the same. It asks you to grow. It tests your capacity to remain open, even when your nervous system screams for safety. It reveals where your heart is still guarded, where your mind still clings to certainty, and where your spirit longs to be free. That very tension is the heat of alchemy, the soul's way of preparing you to become who you were meant to be. Spirituality is not always calm waters. It is also the storm that breaks the dam of false identity. And in that breaking, you begin to awaken. Spiritual development doesn't come through perfect peace. It comes when you're willing to stand still in the fire, knowing it's burning away what no longer serves your highest path. The one you resist may be the very soul you contracted to meet before you were born. Their presence is not an accident. It is the mirror, the messenger, the key. And yes, it will be intense. But intensity is not something to fear. It is something to surrender to, because it often signals depth, not danger. The more you resist, the more it persists, not to punish you, but to remind you that avoidance delays growth. So let your resistance teach you. Let your discomfort reveal you. Let your fear guide you to the place where your healing begins. What feels like chaos is often divine order in disguise. What feels like too much is often exactly enough. And the love that cracks you open is often the one that sets your soul free. 6. Anima and animus shape our attraction. Carl Jung's theory of anima and animus reveals a profound spiritual intelligence behind why we feel such intense, inexplicable attraction to certain people. Within every man lives an unconscious feminine energy, the anima. Within every woman, a masculine counterpart, the animus. These archetypes, rooted in the collective unconscious, shape not only how we relate to love, but how we project our hidden desires and wounds onto others. When you meet someone who mirrors this internal image, the pull can be overwhelming, electric, almost divine. It feels like destiny, but what you're actually experiencing is a reflection of your own soul, calling out for recognition. The danger, Jung warned, lies in unconscious projection. You don't see the person, you see your own longing dressed in their face. You fall in love not with them, but with a forgotten part of yourself. This is where love becomes an illusion. It feels like fate, but it's fantasy. Yet when you bring these archetypes into consciousness, when you meet your inner masculine or feminine with awareness, you stop projecting and start awakening. You begin to recognize others not as saviors, but as sacred mirrors. This is where real love begins. It no longer emerges from emptiness or lack, but from inner wholeness. Carl Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." This is the essence of transformative love. Not passion for its own sake, but connection that changes you at the soul level. Love becomes less about possession and more about reflection. It stops being about what the other person can give you and starts being about what the connection reveals within you. Spiritual wisdom teaches that fate doesn't bring people into our lives randomly. It brings them to trigger healing, remembrance, and growth. The anima and animus awaken us to our own unconscious longings. But it is our choice, our spiritual maturity, that determines whether we use this connection to expand or repeat old patterns. Emotional intelligence alone isn't enough. You must cultivate spiritual intelligence, the ability to see beyond the surface, to hold space for your inner symbols, to ask deeper questions. Is this love rooted in my wholeness, or am I just chasing completion in someone else? Is this connection a calling or a cycle? The moment you stop romanticizing projection and start integrating your shadow is the moment you stop falling in love with illusions and start creating space for real, unbreakable love to grow. You realize that you are not seeking someone to save you. You are seeking someone to walk beside you. And the more conscious you become of the sacred energies within you, the more aligned your outer relationships become. Because true love is not about finding your other half. It's about finding someone who reflects the fullness you've already claimed within. 7. Individuation through love. Love is not merely romantic, it is alchemical. It is the crucible through which the unconscious is stirred, the self is summoned, and the soul begins its deepest work. Carl Jung understood this when he spoke of individuation as the process of becoming whole, and love, in its purest spiritual form, is the fire that makes this process unavoidable. It does not arrive to soothe our wounds. It comes to expose them. It brings us face to face with our unresolved traumas, our unmet needs, and our unspoken fears, not to destroy us, but to liberate us. In this sacred confrontation, love dismantles illusions. It peels away the layers of ego, the false identities we've constructed for approval or safety, and forces us to witness the raw truth of our inner world. The person we meet through this spiritual awakening is not here to complete us, but to reveal the parts of ourselves we abandoned long ago. They are the mirror, not the medicine. They are the trigger, not the cure. But through that triggering, healing begins not by fixing the other, but by reclaiming the self. This is the paradox of spiritual love. It hurts, and yet it heals. It disrupts, and yet it aligns. It is not about harmony at all costs. It is about truth at all costs. And the truth often arrives in the form of tension, resistance, even chaos, because something deeper is being summoned to the surface. In modern relationships, we're taught to seek compatibility, comfort, convenience. But soul-level love isn't convenient. It's catalytic. It exists to awaken intelligence within your being that you didn't know was there. It reminds you that real love is not found. It is remembered. It is not about ownership. It is about freedom. When two souls are drawn to each other by fate, it's not because they fit like puzzle pieces, but because they are meant to activate each other's growth. And this activation can feel like a storm, but it is actually a cleansing, a spiritual storm that clears away everything that no longer serves the evolution of your soul. In this way, love becomes the arena of awakening. It teaches boundaries, not as walls, but as sacred lines of self-respect. It teaches presence, not as performance, but as spiritual integrity. And above all, it teaches surrender not to another person, but to the process of becoming who you truly are. The person you meet through this spiritual lens is not your destiny. They are your initiation. They are the door you walk through, but the journey is still yours. To walk beside them is a choice, not a need. And if that choice is made from a place of awakened consciousness, not unconscious longing, then love becomes a sacred partnership rooted in truth, not fantasy. It becomes the ground where both people are free to be whole, even as they walk together. This is love as individuation. This is love as spiritual wisdom. 8. Love that endures is a journey, not a destination. Love that endures is not a destination, but a sacred unfolding of the soul, a journey that often begins with heartbreak, confusion, or separation before it leads to true transformation. When fate intervenes, it doesn't always arrive wrapped in ease or clarity. Instead, it often cracks you open so that the light can enter, allowing your spirit to grow. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And in the realm of love, this could not be more true. The most powerful connections do not always come with logic or perfect timing. They come with a knowing, an ache, a recognition that stirs something ancient inside you. These soul-deep encounters are not built on possession or control, but on presence and spiritual development. Even if time, distance, or circumstance separates two people, the energy between them continues to move, reshape, and whisper lessons into their lives. Love that is written by destiny is not always loud. It's patient, enduring, and transformational. It calls you to rise, to confront your shadows, to release the ego's grip, and to embrace the unfolding of your authentic self. in this space, love becomes a mirror for the soul, revealing wounds and wisdom alike. Spirituality teaches us that the connections that challenge us the most are often the ones that awaken our highest truths. So when someone enters your life and you feel cracked open by their presence, don't rush to label it or cling to outcomes. Let it teach you. Let it stretch you. Let it return you to yourself. The purpose of such love is rarely comfort. It is evolution. These destined meetings are contracts of the soul, not always to stay, but always to awaken. And even if the story doesn't unfold the way your mind hoped, trust that your soul received exactly what it needed. Spiritual development is rarely linear, and neither is love. It comes in waves, in signs, in moments that don't make sense until your heart is ready to understand. Fate is not always what you meet. It's what transforms you. And the most unbreakable bonds are not the ones tightly held by the hands, but the ones deeply anchored in the heart. So walk with faith, not fear. Love deeply, even when the form changes. Trust that if the connection is written in spirit, it will never truly leave you. It will echo through your growth, your strength, and your becoming, not to complete you, but to remind you that you were never incomplete to begin with. And so, when fate weaves its golden thread through the soul of two destined hearts, love becomes more than just emotion. It becomes divine alignment. If today's message spoke to something ancient within you, a truth you've always known, but never quite put into words, then you are exactly where you're meant to be. Let this reminder be your anchor. What's meant for you will not pass you by. If you felt the depth of this truth, let us know in the comments. Share your story, your synchronicities, or simply write, "I trust divine timing." And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Tap the notification bell so you never miss the next message meant for your soul. Your journey is guided. You are not alone.